Joins us on Wednesday's program so he can tell us how to fix this economy.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL. Talk radio made in St. Louis.
Very excited for what you guys are doing for the St. Louis community.
For St. Louis.
Relevant local talk.
Saying what we are thinking.
This is News Talk STL.
You guys are awesome. I love you. And it's a tremendous honor to be on the station.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Thanks for covering the local angle.
Come on, people. This is America.
We better open our eyes.
Really local, really good.
News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stiefel. Contact your Stiefel financial advisor at stiefel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Well, good afternoon and welcome into the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show here at 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. 3:33 in the PM here on a chilly, nippy October 18th, 2022. Chris Arps, you're probably ready for the mammoth blankets, at this point.
I told
I
told my wife the other day that I want her to shop on Amazon and invest in a weighted blanket. I've heard of how beautiful sleep that gives you, and that hot or that heavy blanket on you. So I want that.
I hear. Didn't Tony Colombo have a weighted blanket?
I think he did.
Am I imagining that? I thought he had a weighted blanket.
I think he did. He may have inspired me to think about it, because I think I heard him talking about it on a prior show and a prior station that he had a weighted blanket.
I think
those things are expensive. So.
I think they are, but I think it's good for people who not only like to be warm, but have trouble sleeping.
Yeah,
like they help you calm down. And I know he doesn't. He's a fretful sleeper. So
the best sleep I ever had in my life, I was about 25, 26 years old, and I bought a waterbed. And it wasn't the stiff one. It was the one when you jump on it, you almost need a surfboard. It's waving going on. And I tell you, in the wintertime, I would turn that heater on that thing, and it'd have a nice blanket on it. Oh, that was some of the best sleep I've ever had in my life. Seriously. Love that.
Really?
But I don't think now. I think it would be too wavy for me now as a middle-aged man.
You might need Dramamine.
Yeah.
You don't
back
hear,
then,
you don't hear much about waterbeds anymore.
Remember back in the day in St. Louis?
Oh, man.
If you ain't sleeping on water, you oughta. That was the commercial.
I don't remember that.
You remember that stuff?
Yes.
Was that
the waterbed store?
It wasn't Slammin' Brothers, but it was like the waterbed store. If you ain't sleeping on water, you oughta. And I can't remember. Yeah, that was the tagline.
I have childhood memories from waterbed and waterbed stores. Of course, those that know me and have listened to the show know I lived by Jamestown Mall, and they had a waterbed store at Jamestown Mall back in the day. And of course, you always had to go there and jump on the bed and play on it and everything. But that was a long time ago. Davy Jones' Locker was like right next to it. Remember that store? Davy Jones' Locker?
Boy.
Took you back on that one, didn't it?
Man, you sure did. Now I'm thinking of Mr. Guy and some other stores.
There were some awesome stores back in the day.
And Merry-Go-Round.
It really was.
Merry-Go-Round used to go in there and you'd get assaulted. That was their reputation. They, as soon as you walked in the door, they were sizing you up and say, "Hey, this would look good on you. Why don't you go try this on?" It's like I just stepped in the store.
Give me a
and
second.
I look at something.
That's customer service.
Oh, they were annoying.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Fantastic.
They got a reputation for that. They really did.
Really.
See, my thought also goes back to dorm life. Seemed as though a lot of kids had water beds. Maybe I'm going further back. I'm thinking 70s.
Early 70s, I think.
Early 70s.
I caught the tail end of it when you'd go over to some people's houses and stuff with your folks, and like it was a big novelty if someone had a waterbed. You know, it was like, ooh, fancy.
They're not in vogue anymore. Maybe people learned that they tear your back up, and people don't want them anymore.
Can you imagine the maintenance too on that? Having a giant thing full of water in your bedroom, that would terrify me, with like leaks and stuff.
I was always worried about it because it was upstairs at one point, of it being too heavy for the floor, and one day it crashes down through the 2 floors to the basement. That was always my fear.
Not just one floor, but two floors to the basement.
You got to go on. If you're going to do something like that, absolutely destroy your house and have a disaster, you might as well go all the way.
Just go all in. That's right.
The thing here, it goes to 1 floor, 2 floor, goes to the basement. The thing splatters. There's water all over. It floods your basement. So,
It's like the old Warner Brothers cartoons, where someone breaks through the wall and they go through 30 different walls and it's Bugs Bunny outline. Hey, we've got speaking of fun and frivolity, we got a ton of that for you here this afternoon. Chris, we're going to talk to our old friend Karen Fessler. Haven't talked to her in quite a while, but boy, is this appropriate, because even though, it's great for 2022, but also I'm hearing people already going to Iowa for 2024. So we'll talk to Karen about Chuck Grassley's Senate race, the Ted Cruz bus tour, and Iowa presidential politics. That's right around the corner, isn't it?
Yeah, and as you know, Tim, as soon as this race is over on November 8th, 2022, the presidential elections start November 9th, 2022.
You're correct.
So people are already going to the dinners. You ask them about it, and of course, they have no idea what you're talking about. I just so happened I'm in Iowa. I was invited. That's the line they always give.
So Karen Fessler, who is a fantastic on-the-ground super operative up in Iowa, will bring us up to speed on everything we need to know. At 4:22, we'll have David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute. We're hearing about renewed calls for a land bank, which I believe David Stokes is going to say is one of the worst ideas ever. We'll find out why, and we'll remind you what a land bank is. Chris's Corner at 4:42. At 5:07, we had to call a little audible here. One of our good friends from ALEC was available today at the 5:07 slot, so we're going to have Thomas Savage on, who was just in St. Louis a couple weeks ago for an ALEC Tax Academy. And he's going to talk to us about the crushing inflation and why that's one of the top concerns for Americans as we approach the midterm election. The Speaker's stump speech at 5:22. Chris has an update on the Andrew Jones for Congress campaign. Had a great event last night.
Yeah, that's going to be my Chris's Corner. Not so much Andrew Jones's campaign per se, but there were some very interesting voters that showed up last night that are not traditional Republican voters that give me a lot of hope for his race and Montavani's race in St. Louis County, and that will be the subject of Chris's Corner at 4:20. Tim, before we go to break, I want to give a shout out to my good friend Mary Teresa McLean, who is here. Always love seeing her. I think I've seen her 3 times this week, so triple bonus.
She's watching us through the fishbowl here as she's talking to Joe Rush. They're in a very deep conversation here, and we're distracting them. But we want to thank Mary Teresa for all her support of our station. And Chris, you are saying she has done a fine job renewing the interest in Republicans in the city of St. Louis.
You go to the St. Louis City Republican meetings at Hampton at the St. Louis Police Headquarters, and those meetings are packed. Every single one of them. Becky has been going to them as Andrew's campaign manager. She has done a wonderful job revitalizing that club, and she's put it on the map. And I think one way that proves that is you hear St. Louis City Republican ads here on the station promoting the candidates, and that shows a growing and vibrant Republican Central Committee.
Boy, it sure does. Folks, if you're a Republican and you're listening to us in the city of St. Louis, know that you're not alone. You can go to stlouiscitygop.com and you can check out what your fellow Republicans are doing and join them. Join them in Didi. So
also got a shout out for you at the meeting yesterday. The new business manager of the St. Louis Police Officer Association knows you.
Steiger, Joe
has
Steiger.
Connection with you. Told me to tell you hello. He would love to come on and be a guest at any time. And he's a big supporter of Andrew and of the station. He listens to the station, and so big supporter. So hey, Joe Steiger, if you're listening. Hey, great meeting you last night, and look forward to having you on the air soon.
Joe Steiger and I go way back. We can't tell stories about each other because we met back in our high school days. He is best friends with one of my best friend's younger brothers. And we all hung out in a bunch of South City bars that probably don't exist anymore, drank Bush out of the can. So Joe is a good dude. And Chris, I saw that the other day, and I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot to bring it up on my own. So thank you. And I haven't seen Joe. I see Joe every few years, and I'd love to have him on the show. Good I'm so excited to see his success in the city of St. Louis.
Retired police detective with the city, and I think he's been president of the organization. And after the departure of Jeff Rorda, he has been named the new business agent, and great guy.
It's guys like that give us hope for the city to renew itself once again. All right, as you can tell, we've got a jam-packed show. Chris and I are going to step aside here for just a second. Stel Ponticus came back for day number 2.
Thanks, Stel.
We're really glad he did because we wouldn't know how to run all those knobs and levers. We'll be back with Karen Fessler, super Iowa political operative, to talk about Senator Chuck Grassley's Senate race, the Ted Cruz bus tour, Iowa presidential politics, which are beginning now here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Day 3 is still up in the air for me, by the way.
It should be.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Thinking about an appliance purchase or having something installed like flooring, kitchen, or bath? You can count on Lowe's for credit options. See the store nearest you or go to Lowe's.com for details on the latest credit offers going on now. Eastbound 70 at Forestel, they have wrapped up an earlier accident. It was blocking all lanes and a pretty solid backup from west of Wright City. Clearing roadwork westbound 70 at Zumbel, a multi-vehicle crash, Veterans Memorial Parkway at Zumbel. Northbound US 67 is shut down at Highway 94 for an accident investigation. Consider northbound Illinois Route 3 if you're heading into Alton. Crowded eastbound 270 between 170 and New Florissant, and starting to slow southbound 55 between 44 and Arsenal. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another freezing night tonight, low down to 30 degrees. A high of 53, lots of sunshine, a little breezy. It is definitely a cold day, but nice to have some sunshine. We're going to start to warm things up as we head to the end of the week, but it's still pretty chilly Thursday morning. 35 for the low, but 68, mostly sunny in the afternoon. We'll be in the upper 70s Friday into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
St. Louis's place to talk.
The American people have further lost faith in our governmental institutions.
People can decide what they want and how they want to live.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
Well, folks, we're talking a lot about air and water these days because we're all getting ready to shut up our homes for the winter, drain the pools, and such and so forth. Well, you want to make sure that before you completely cocoon yourself this winter, that your air and water is the best it can be. Well, that means you need to get a hold of Jones Air and Water today before Old Man Winter completely sets in. Jones Air and Water specializes in air and water treatment products and services to enhance better and easier living in your home or your business. This month, Everett Jones and the gang at Jones Air and Water are focusing on bringing you the Hydrotech H2O system. I always say H2O. HTO, the HTO system. It will improve the hardness of your water, make it a little softer. It'll definitely improve the taste, and it will remove the nasty odors. What's it good for? Any homes or businesses on chlorinated hard municipal water, which is a lot of us in this region. It's a one-of-a-kind combination system. So back in the day, you used to have to buy 2 different systems for this. Now, Everett Jones can bring one system into your home with lower upfront costs, lower annual costs, and will combine that high-quality product of having a softener and a carbon filtration system all in one. Everett will come to your home. He'll test all your water. He'll test it in your water tank, in your tanks, in your toilet tanks, at your faucets, outdoors, and he will recommend to you what you need for better water in your home. We've got a couple of his water systems here, News Talk STL and my Jones home. We have the reverse osmosis system. It's really fantastic. They also service all types of air and water treatment products and services as well. He's not beholden to any one retailer or product, so he's going to give you the best honest choice there. And he serves the entire St. Louis metropolitan area, 25 years plus in the business with a multitude of top star ratings. You can give him a call, 636-899-1040, 636-899-1040, or 24/7 joneswater.com. That's joneswater.com.
Are you the type of person who loves their community and wants it to be the best it can be? Now it's easier than ever to do your part. Go to recyclemo.com to see just how easy it is to recycle the right way. Or if you already recycle and want to be as efficient as possible, recyclemo.com can tell you what should and should not be recycled in your area. Become part of the clean recycling movement today. It's the right thing to do. Sponsored by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
We take what's happening at the southern border very seriously, unlike some, and unlike the President of the United States, who has refused to lift a finger to secure that border. And you've had millions and millions of people pouring across illegally, record amount of fentanyl coming into our country. It is absolutely killing Americans in record numbers. Of course, you have criminal aliens, but just the sheer number of people, it's not the way you run a country. Unfortunately, there's a lot of folks that come across. Where do they want to end up? A lot want to come to, because everyone wants to come to Florida. But yes, if you have folks that are inclined to think Florida is a good place, our message to them is we are not a sanctuary state. And it's better to be able to go to a sanctuary jurisdiction. And yes, we will help facilitate that transport for you to be able to go to greener pastures.
Well, speaking of greener pastures, they often have them. Well, they're probably browning out, just like they are in Missouri now. But there's a lot of greener pastures in most of the months of the year in the great state of Iowa, the home of presidential politics. Joining us now to talk about that is a friend of the show, Karen Fessler. We had her on a little bit ago. She's back with us again today. Karen, welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Great to have you join us.
Hello, Karen.
Thank you. Great to be with you guys this afternoon.
So, Karen, we've been calling you the Iowa Super Operative. Do you have any other titles other than that, or is that a good one for you today?
I think that's probably overplaying it a little bit.
That's okay. So, Karen, play that clip from Ron DeSantis because, we're wondering, Iowa, a very important state, presidential politics-wise and just in general, everybody's always watching Iowa, even in non-presidential years. Senator Chuck Grassley has a race this year, very important race for the control of the U.S. Senate. Is immigration an issue in your congressional and in your senatorial races?
Oh, absolutely. Just the whole situation at the border, is an issue here. And it's one of the issues that our Republican candidates are hitting very, very hard. We had one of the secret flights come in here last year.
Oh, really?
From Joe Biden. And our governor let him know in no uncertain terms that wasn't going to happen again. So anyway, I think immigration is definitely an important issue here.
Karen, we are old friends, and one thing that I joked about when I worked on the Ted Cruz campaign in 2016 was one, of course, how cold it was in Iowa. The second thing was that with every crowd I was in, I doubled, sometimes tripled the black population. The reason where I'm going with that is you have a very interesting governor's race there with a young woman named Deidre DeGier. I think that's how you say her name. She is running for governor of Iowa as a black female Democrat. They had a debate, I think, on Monday. Give us the skinny on that. That race has kind of been under the radar screen. Does she have a chance?
No. I think, Miss DeGier is, she has a very compelling resume, and she came to Iowa to go to school and fell in love with the state, as many do, and stayed here. She's a graduate of Drake University in Des Moines. I think she's the head of a nonprofit organization. And I'm not, that just tells you, there's not a whole lot of information out there about her. But she was, they did debate the other night, and Governor Kim Reynolds just, pretty much took over the night. And Ms. DeGier is sort of focused on issues that aren't all that important to the majority of Iowans. And that doesn't have anything to do with the color of her skin or anything. These are kitchen table issues that everyone is worried about.
Do we know if she
had your congresswoman up here over the weekend, Cori Bush.
Oh, did she? Oh,
wonderful.
God. Do we know if Ms. DeGier, because she stayed in Iowa, does she like cold? Do we know that?
I haven't had a chance to ask her. I'll sure try. By the way, it was 1 below zero wind chill in Spencer, Iowa this morning, Chris.
Yeah, it's. I remember those temperatures, and I don't ever want to experience them again.
Maybe that'll make you a little homesick for your
No, I miss seeing you, but doing that up there, way too cold.
For sure.
There you go. I think Kim Reynolds is fine in her race. She has. She had some issues during COVID and some people who were unhappy with her, but as it turned out, Iowa came out of COVID very well. And I think that, Kim is set to serve for 4 more years.
Speaking to Karen Fessler, who is an Iowa political operative, she knows what's going on up to the lands in our north. Karen, are there some contested races that we should keep an eye on, either congressional or any others that may help us know early in the evening, Iowa being in the central time zone with Missouri, that may give us a clue as to ultimately what the only poll that matters, that would be the one on election day, November 8th, is going to tell us about kind of the state of the nation on November the 9th?
Well, we have 4 congressional districts. The 4th district is a ruby red district. There's nothing to worry about with Randy Feenstra there. But our 1st district, which is where I live in the southeast corner, the 2nd district, which is the northeast corner, and the 3rd district, which is southwest Iowa and Des Moines. Those 3 races are going to tell you a lot during the evening. My race here, it's an incumbent congresswoman, Marionette Miller Meeks. She won by 6 votes the last time. You may remember that. And she's got an opponent who's well funded and doing what she needs to do. But Marionette does have a good record. Ashley Hinson in the 2nd district also has a strong opponent, and they're raising a lot of money for her there. Ashley had Ted Cruz in over the weekend, and they had a good event up in Iowa Falls with her. So, that's always good. And the 3rd district, we have an incumbent Democrat. That's our only Democrat congressional district, Cindy Axney, and she has a very strong opponent in Zach Nunn. So we're hoping that Zach is going to be able to turn that district for us. So those three congressional seats. And then, of course, the Senate race with Chuck Grassley, which, Chris talked to me earlier today and said, what about these polling numbers? I don't think those numbers are as close as the polling thinks they are. So, Chuck Grassley is an institution here. Yeah, he's probably the poster child for term limits, but, he continues to do what he needs to do for Iowa, and having him in a seat of seniority. I mean, he'll be the Senate, the Senate pro tem if he's reelected, and if the Republicans take that seat back. That's huge for a state like Iowa. So anyway, I don't think his opponent is pretty radical, and but Schumer has pulled all of his money out of Iowa. Chuck Schumer is not putting any money in the Senate race anymore.
Karen, we got about a minute left, but I want to ask you about, first, we hear every 4 years about Iowa's first in the nation status. They want to take that away. And you mentioned it a little bit with Ted Cruz, but has there been any other potential presidential candidate sightings in Iowa lately?
Oh, yeah. Mike Pence has been here. Mike Pompeo was here last fall. He hasn't been back for a while. Or last spring, I'm sorry. He hasn't been back for a while. Rick Scott has been here. Tim Scott has been here. So yeah, they're coming in and they're helping out our congressional and our legislative candidates. And they do that. They build up their gravitas, and that helps them come caucus time. Another interesting person who comes in here is Kat Kamek. She is a congresswoman from Florida, and she has been here several times. She's 34 years old, so come caucus time, she'll be eligible. And I think could be a very intriguing person and possibly a vice presidential candidate.
And one quick question I want to ask is staff being hired? Are these campaigns, any of these guys hiring staff?
Pompeo has staff. I have heard that Pence is talking to people about staff. So, yeah, people are starting to get that put together.
Fantastic.
Karen, you want me to put a good word in for you?
Yeah, but I can only work spring and summer.
He needs 2 more coats. Yeah,
and a blanket.
Yes.
Spring and summer only.
Work that November to January.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Karen, thanks so much for your insight and analysis. I think our listeners found that extremely fascinating.
Thank you,
we will watch Iowa and those 3 congressional races on election night as we do election night coverage here on News Talk STL. Karen, thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you,
my friend. Good to talk to you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you as well. We'll be right back with David Stokes, Chris's Corner, and more at News Talk STL.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation.
Enable our Alexa skill. Hey, Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Always streaming at newstalkstl.com or on your radio at 1019, 94.1, and 99.1 HD3. News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion. Welcome home.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Michael's Flooring Outlet is a locally owned and operated family business for more than 28 years, featuring exclusive products, unbeatable prices, and expert installation. You can choose from a wide variety of flooring options, including carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, plus many other options. And you'll gain a peace of mind knowing that your flooring and carpet installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michael's. You can shop in-store at one of their 3 convenient locations or shop from home online. Check out everything Michael's Flooring has to offer at igotfloored.com.
For $1 a day, if any covered appliance breaks in your home, we guarantee to fix or replace it. All makes and models, washers, dryers, refrigerators, air conditioners, and more. Guaranteed to be fixed or replaced for $1 a day. Call the Home Service Club now for free information.
800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. That's 800-399-3701.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. President Biden came out firmly for abortion on demand today.
The only sure way to stop these extremist laws that are put in jeopardy women's health and rights is for Congress to pass a law. And I've said before, the court got Roe right nearly 50 years ago, and I believe Congress should codify Roe once and for all.
That got a strong reaction from the National Right to Life Committee, whose president, Carol Tobias, says the president's speech was full of misinformation. She says polls repeatedly show most Americans oppose abortion on demand, even late in pregnancy. President Biden wants to increase oil supplies ahead of the November midterm elections. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
The president is set to talk about energy and gas prices on Wednesday, with some media reporting that the administration is moving toward an additional release of 10 to 15 million barrels of oil from the U.S. Strategic Reserve. With gas prices inching higher again, the White House is looking to increase oil supplies before the election. despite Mr. Biden's 2019 campaign pledge to end fossil fuels. Greg Clugston, Washington.
An Iranian competitive climber has left South Korea after competing at an event in which she climbed without her nation's mandatory headscarf covering. Farsi language media outside of Iran have warned that she may have been forced to leave early by Iranian officials and could face arrest back home. The decision by climber Elnaz Rakabi comes as protests sparked by the September death of a 22-year-old woman detained by the country's morality police have entered a fifth week. Iran's embassy in Seoul denied, quote, all the fake, false news and information about Rakabi. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 337 points today. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
What's the best product I bought this year? Oh, that's easy. Salonpas pain-relieving patches. The proven medicines in Salonpas patches reduce my pain and let me do the things I need to do every day.
In a recent clinical study, patients using Salonpas reported improved sleep, mood, and the ability to work. They had less pain and were able to reduce their use of oral pain medications.
For pain, I use Salonpas. It's good medicine.
Welcome home to St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
As far as Joe Biden, everything he touches turns into a disaster.
Let me start off with 2 words.
News, analysis, and opinion.
The Saudis need to come to their senses.
Russia knows that nuclear war cannot be won.
The 2022 midterm elections.
Blowout year for Republicans.
We cannot afford to lose.
It's insane.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Welcome home. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds, easy to install and guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop and save big at Blindster.com. Eastbound 70 still heavy moving through Wright City again at Forestel and one more time at Wentzville Parkway. And then east and westbound 70 pretty heavy at Zumbell, probably due to a multi-vehicle crash on Veterans Memorial Parkway at Zumbell. Northbound US 67 completely closed at Highway 94 in West Alton for an accident investigation. Use Illinois Route 3 as an alternate. There's a stalled semi in the left lanes eastbound 64 at Big Bend, southbound 141 at Bowles, an accident blocking all lanes. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation.
Enable our Alexa skill. Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Always streaming at newstalkstl.com or on your radio at 101.9, 94.1, and 99.1 HD3. News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion. Welcome home. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another freezing night tonight, low down to 30 degrees. A high of 53, lots of sunshine, a little breezy. It is definitely a cold day, but nice to have some sunshine. We're going to start to warm things up as we head to the end of the week, but it's still pretty chilly Thursday morning. 35 for the low, but 68, mostly sunny in the afternoon. We'll be in the upper 70s Friday into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by All Solutions Pest Control, 636-486-7888, or visit them at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Parents want more choices rather than fewer when it comes to their children's education. And now some Missouri parents will have one more option to get their children the best education available. Low-income students and those with disabilities in Missouri's largest communities can now apply for an Empowerment Scholarship Account, or ESA. With an ESA, the money the state would normally pay to your child's public school goes into an account that you control. You can use the funds for private school tuition, online learning programs, a private tutor, or other approved uses. You can tailor your child's education. For too long, Missouri officials have operated on the mistaken notion that parents only need one choice. They're assigned public school based on their address. ESAs put parents in charge. It's school choice at its best, with money following the students to the place that best fits their needs. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. This Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
But I'm not going to turn my dial off to you guys. I really like this channel.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
So, Dr. McCullough, some people say, well, kids drop dead all the time of heart issues. I mean, you've been in this field for decades. You're a cardiologist. Is that true?
It's not true. We have data by Avolio and colleagues from Finland. Before the COVID-19 vaccines, there were 4 cases for myocarditis per million. It can happen with a parvovirus or another virus. 4 per million. The current estimates are now from a prospective cohort study from Bangkok, Thailand, 25,000 cases per million. 25,000 cases per million. Yes, Charlie, it's through the roof. Myocarditis at this point in time is due to the COVID-19 vaccines until proven otherwise.
Well, there's another way we'll likely get canceled here at 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Great being back on YouTube again for 5 minutes. 8 minutes after the hour here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. You know, Chris, these are the conversations that we need to be having and should have, and you can't just yell and scream and go, misinformation, disinformation, when a Pfizer exec last week admits in a public hearing one of the things that we were also told we weren't supposed to say, which was that, hey, you know, maybe this vaccine isn't preventing, isn't stopping transmission of the virus. Oh, no, go get, the vaccine does everything. It'll even help you win Powerball. Yeah. You know, I mean, so Chris, I don't know if what Dr. Peter McCullough is saying is true or not, but we should be able to at least have the conversation about it.
I think, and it'll be interesting to talk with Dr. Tobler about this later this week, who's a big supporter of the vaccine. I hate to speak for Dr. Tobler, but I think what he would say was this vaccine was vastly oversold as a preventative measure when it is not, and that what it is really good for is making sure you don't get a serious case of COVID and end up in the hospital and on a ventilator and all type of drugs. But it's been oversold. We've been lied to by the government, by Fauci in particular, and these things that we're hearing about, this myocardial thing with young men, that's been proven. This is not a internet rumor type of thing. We are seeing a rash of this, and it's something that we should be concerned and study it.
Another follow-up on this very same point. We woke up this morning to learn about something else that we weren't supposed to suggest, right? We're not supposed to suggest that COVID-19 came from a lab, any lab, right? It came from the bats kissing the penguins in the wet market, right? That's what we're supposed to believe. Well, we wake up this morning to a headline that claims Boston University researchers have claimed to develop a new, more lethal COVID strain in their lab. Wait a minute. I thought we weren't working on gain of function and COVID and coronavirus research in labs. This is not Tucker Carlson saying this. This is not Peter McCullough saying this. This isn't Fox News, Newsmax, or anybody else saying. This is Boston University saying we have combined the Omicron variant with the original Wuhan strain, and boy, does it kill a lot of mice.
I'm going to do my best Fauci impression here. Tim, you got to understand that it's better that we do this research here in this country. That way we have protocols, we have things that we know what's going on. If it's going over there in China, we don't know what's going on. They could devise any type of thing. So I understand your concerns, Tim, but you're fear-mongering. It's better that we learn about this virus in our own universities so that we can study it and come up with our own vaccines very quickly if, by God, some disaster happens and it gets out of the lab. But Tim, you're fear-mongering.
Well stated, Tony. Well stated, Tony. But what I would respond to him, I would say, take that up with Stephen King, because he wrote the horror book about The Stand.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Carrie, Pet Cemetery. Well, that would work, right? Pet Cemetery.
Exactly.
You got Frankenstein mice, spewing COVID-19 all over everyone. So in The Stand. The Stand was written in the 1970s about an influenza-like virus that was developed and escaped from the CDC laboratory in Atlanta, Georgia, spread all over the globe and killed 9 out of 10 people and basically brought about the apocalypse.
No one still has given me a adequate explanation. Why are we studying these bat viruses and trying to make them more lethal and more admissible to the public through aerosols and all that? What is the purpose of this research besides creating biological weapons?
I agree with you.
I don't understand. No one's explained it to me.
Me either. Now, if I'm being a good lawyer who can argue every side of every issue like a 20-sided dice, I guess, Chris, what I would say is kind of like where you were going with when Tony Fauci was in the room with us a second ago. I guess you would argue possibly that we would rather develop these uber dangerous viruses in case our enemies do, so then we can figure out the antidotes or the cures to them. So if we create the deadliest thing on the planet and then we figure out how to kill it, then we're going to be ready when our enemies attack us. But Chris, how about, we always talk about make love, not war. How about we all agree as a scientific community not to do any of this in the first place?
Yeah, it's just dangerous. And I'm sure that this type of research has been going on for years. And the nightmare scenario that has been in the movies that you talked about and virus and all of that is that somehow this virus gets out and creates a worldwide pandemic. Well, guess what? We've had that. And so I don't understand why we are studying these viruses. You know how the international community outlaws nuclear weapons for certain countries. They don't want to get them. It should be the same way with these biological weapons. They should, or these I know they are, but the Geneva Convention and all that, but the research on these bat viruses and all this, it should really be outlawed.
And doesn't it just stress the bounds of credulity for Tony Fauci and the rest of the gang to sit there and argue out of both sides of their mouth? So on one hand, Chris, they want us to believe that no one in the world could possibly have created COVID-19 in a lab. But here we have a story in our backyard where Boston University researchers themselves have admitted we're working on coronaviruses in the lab. We're trying to make the most lethal thing possible. It killed 8 out of 10 mice. Now, here is the sentence. I wish they would have put this sentence at the top. I actually had to read this whole article, and there was a little ray of sunshine at the bottom, which makes me perhaps believe that maybe this is not as deadly. There's one sentence at the end. They should have put this at the top so I wasn't like in absolute terror reading this article. At the very end, the last sentence says, one limitation to the study was the breed of mice used, as other types are more similar to humans. So I guess these are the weak-ass mice, and they went down, but maybe the stronger mice who are more like us, and apparently there's a lot of similarities between between the immune system of a mouse and that of a human. They're very similar, apparently. I guess we're supposed to take some solace in that. I still don't understand, to your point, why are we doing this?
Well, and still, that doesn't give me any more solace that, hey, we use rats that are not as quite as human as these rats. So what happens if you do use the rats that are closest to humans? It could be 10 times worse than what happened to these mice. So I'm not reassured by that.
Yeah, so let's say, the weak-ass mice, 8 out of 10 of them die. Let's say they use the stronger mice, and only 5 of them die. Yeah. Oh, so it's got a 50% kill rate instead of an 80%?
Exactly.
Oh, now I feel better.
Yeah.
I mean, and it goes back to that. I loved that little exchange between, what's his face? Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert, way back, like a year and a half back, when Jon Stewart gets on Stephen Colbert's show, and much to Colbert's shock and horror and chagrin, Stewart is basically saying, come on, man. They get into this discussion about the origin of the Wuhan coronavirus. And Stewart's like, come on, man. You're really going to tell me that a place that has a lab that's literally called, the bit was really funny. Right. It's literally called the Wuhan Institute of Coronaviruses.
On the building, yes.
On the building. Like the building says that, and the guy's business cards all say that you're going to tell me it came from the market 3 blocks down, and they just happen to have this massive coronavirus outbreak by accident in a wet market that was located down the street from the Institute of Coronaviruses, and he does this whole riff on it. And Colbert is sitting there going, oh, Jon Stewart's a truther or a denier or a whatever, or, a race. Yeah. He's a racist, It's just, I don't know. So we've got, we lost. Anyway, I saw that story this morning, Chris, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm glad we got into that and you had more details, because I saw the headline, but I didn't read it, didn't get a chance to get into it, but probably a good thing I didn't, because it would just infuriated me instead. What I did do this morning, Tim, I watched the Georgia governor's, or gubernatorial, as you're supposed to say it correctly. I watched that debate yesterday. And Tony, I love you. I'm sorry I have to say this, but they had the Libertarian candidate that was in the race.
Yeah, how do you do?
In the debate. Oh my God, was he annoying. He wouldn't follow the rules. And instead of really giving good policy points that he wanted to make, he thought he was John Adams or Alexander Hamilton, and every answer was about freedom and liberty, and I'm like, dude, you were annoying.
Was it the same talking points over and over again?
It was pretty much, yeah. And I was like, dude, you are just a total waste of time in the debate. But when it got to the two candidates, Kemp and Abrams, she ate his lunch. Or he ate her lunch.
Did he really?
Yeah, I mean,
did he really?
She's very slick. She's an attorney. She's got an answer for everything. But he had good comebacks on everything that she had. For example, one thing that she wanted to do, the state has a $6 billion budget surplus, and so she wants to use that money for social programs and all of that, and the governor's sitting on it. And he made a beautiful point. He said, Stacey, if you were governor, you shut down Georgia and we wouldn't have the economic growth to have this rainy day fun.
It wouldn't exist.
It wouldn't exist if you were governor. And he got a lot of shots in like that. And he got in particular, he asked her, was talking about her being weak on crime. And he's got the endorsement of all the sheriffs in Georgia. How many do you have? And she flittered all around, didn't say anything. And then she eventually came back and said, well, I do have the support of sheriffs and ordinary people and blah, blah. Okay, but who?
Who?
She didn't name anybody. She just said, I do have support of sheriffs. So he got her.
I, like you, am very impressed with Kemp. I really am. Yeah. I saw him. He took on Jake Tapper a few weeks ago and did an extraordinary job with that as well. He's grace under fire. He really is. He's a smooth operator, and you believe him. You know what I mean? He's very genuine sounding.
Yeah, and he's a native Georgian. His family has been there for 200 years. They have a history, comes from a wealthy background. He's got that Georgia drawl that sounds very comforting when he's talking about Stacey and turns everything back around on her. And he did a really good job, Tim. Really good job.
Master of impressions today.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, we got a caller who was listening to our conversation about gain-of-function research and what they're doing at BU.
Is it Fauci?
It might be Fauci.
Hey, Dr. Fauci!
I think it's Michael. I think it's Michael Wayne. Michael, good afternoon, Michael. Welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. You're on the air. Go right ahead.
Hi, Tim. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
I don't know if I should take it as offense or not. Did you call me Dr. Fauci?
Well, we were hoping you were Dr. Fauci.
Oh, sorry. First of all, I'm glad that the show without Katie isn't the unmitigated disaster that I had.
Wow. Thanks, I think.
So good job not screwing it up. The other thing is that remember that the people that are doing this research are paid to do research, and they have a line item in the federal budget, and by God, they're going to use it and request more next year. They're not going to just not do their jobs.
Well, can they research other stuff besides how to kill the planet?
Could they cure cancer, maybe, or something?
Why do they have to study something that's going to kill us all? That has no redeeming value.
Yeah, I know. I don't. Would this or would this not be the first time that government agencies did things that had no redeeming value?
We agree with you on that, Mike.
Obamacare. We could go on and on, but
Mike, point well made, my friend. Thanks for calling us today.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate it. Yeah, always good to hear from our buddy Mike there.
Was that a backhanded compliment he gave us and a high praise of Stell?
I'm not sure how we're supposed to take that.
I think that was a backhanded compliment to us and high praise of Stell.
I was going to take credit, but now I'm having second thoughts.
No, I think Stell came out really well out of that, and Chris and I did not. Yeah, we're just kind of two turkeys sitting here, So anyway, Stell, it's all about you, apparently.
Well, the research done at Boston University reminds me that there was research over the past 5, 10, 15 years at UNC Chapel Hill, at Texas Galveston, at who knows how many other universities. Yeah. And all of us are wondering what has been going on in these echelons of upper learning and knowledge across the country, and what has Fauci not told us. By the way, there's a new movie that came out today that you can watch.
I saw you saw that.
It's available 10 days for free. It's the RealAnthonyFauciMovie.com. That's the RealAnthonyFauciMovie.com. And Dr. Robert Kennedy Jr. is the focal point of the movie. No matter where you stand as far as Robert Kennedy is concerned, it's definitely worth the opportunity to watch it.
And I still would like somebody to tell me, why are we studying diseases that can kill the population of the planet 20 times over? What is the reason for that?
Yeah, my father does not have a very high opinion of Tony Fauci. He said that Tony Fauci screwed up the AIDS epidemic, and he screwed up this one as well. My dad would also tell you, my dad being a veterinarian, has said that we've been studying coronaviruses for over 100 years. All of us didn't know that, but there's probably safer ways to do it than to try to create more and more lethal strains of them. I just think we're playing with fire here. I mean, labs have accidents, right? We know that.
Study how they work, break down the DNA, devise things to fight it if it gets spread, but making it more lethal is my simple mind can't grasp that. I'm sorry.
I know. We need somebody. We'll have to ask Tobler when we have him on later this week. All right, we got to get to a break because David Stokes is standing by. Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute. What the heck is a land bank? And should the county of St. Louis be trying to create one or not? We'll ask David about that and many more items when we come back to pick his brain on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
This could take all night. Think I need a devil to help me get things right.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Put me up a new revolution.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another freezing night tonight, low down to 30 degrees. A high of 53, lots of sunshine, a little breezy. It is definitely a cold day, but nice to have some sunshine. We're going to start to warm things up as we head to the end of the week, but it's still pretty chilly Thursday morning. 35 for the low, but 68, mostly sunny in the afternoon. We'll be in the upper 70s Friday into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blinds for blinds, they're easy to install, guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop and save big at Blindster.com. Accident eastbound 270 at 170. Watch for brake lights at McDonald. Northbound US 67 still closed at Highway 94 in West Alton. Accident investigation. Use northbound Illinois Route 3. Sounds like we may have an accident now eastbound 270 at the Chain of Rocks Bridge. You're also stacked up on east and westbound 70 at Zumbel. An earlier crash on Veterans Memorial Parkway at Zumbel. Accident westbound 364 west of Harvester. Accident westbound 44 ramp to southbound 270, and an accident Olive at Indian Meadows Drive. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL traffic.
Colombo here for Agers Heating and Air Conditioning. We trust Agers with our home because their number one priority is doing right by the customer. Temperatures are changing outside, and as we transition from warmer temps to cooler ones, if you have any issues keeping your family comfortable, don't wait. Call the great team at Agers so they can address the issue before it gets worse. Because whether it's repairs or replacement, Agers is there with the clarity and attention to detail your home deserves. Contact Agers now at 636-242-6515 or through their website, callagers.com.
Stay top of mind with your customers, stand out from the competition, and drive productivity with a podcast for your business from Epic STL Podcasts. Log on to newstalkstl.com and click on the Epic STL Podcast button to learn more.
Hi, Sean Long for STL FenceWorks. For over 50 years, our time-honored commitment to quality, service, and affordability make STL FenceWorks the go-to authority for fence, deck, and leisure space projects. During these unsure times of severe inflation and supply shortages, you can depend on STL FenceWorks to meet your needs. Being the #1 fence and deck contractor in the state, we've leveraged our position to make contract buy-ins hedging against price increases. Also, our buying power has allowed us to stockpile fence and deck material. There are no shortages at STL FenceWorks. In fact, we have more fence and deck material on hand now than we have had at any time in our 50-year history. Lastly, our commitment to a quality and customer-first approach has never wavered. Your project will be completed by experienced craftsmen in a timely manner, and our lifetime warranty reinforces that commitment. STL FenceWorks warranty surpasses anything offered in the industry. Visit stlfenceworks.com and allow us to bring your backyard dreams to life. As always, at STL FenceWorks, your satisfaction is our passion.
Fox News commentary.
Governor Ron DeSantis wants you to know Florida is a law and order state and he's putting his money where his mouth is. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Is your small business ready for holiday mailing and shipping? Get ahead of the chaos with Stamps.com, the 24/7 post office you can access anywhere. You'll get major discounts on USPS and UPS rates, and it's easy to compare carriers and rates for the best deals. Sign up at Stamps.com with promo code BUSINESS for a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a digital scale. That's Stamps.com, promo code BUSINESS.
A time when other so-called leaders are defunding and demonizing law enforcement, Florida Governor DeSantis is doing the opposite. The first round of $5,000 bonus checks are being sent out to new Florida law enforcement officers, and the checks will actually be more than $6,000 to ensure at least $5,000 goes into the new cops' pockets after taxes. This will not only prove how dedicated the Sunshine State is to law and order, but also to the men and women who enforce it. Officers who leave another state to come to Florida or native Floridians who become police officers for the first time are eligible for the bonuses. It's no wonder officers from other states are fleeing to Florida. Why would they risk their lives in lawless cities and states whose leaders need them but are too stupid or woke to realize it? Other leaders would do well to follow DeSantis' lead. No citizen wants to live in a neighborhood that has defunded or undermined its officers. We need to be funding departments, appreciating officers, and waking up all the woke idiots who decided to uproot that concept. I'm Tommy Lahren.
The candidates.
We're going to win this campaign.
The issues.
Gas prices, Biden inflation.
The election news, analysis, and opinion you won't get anywhere else. Decision 2022 happens.
There's a backlash coming
on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Concerned about the strength of the dollar right now?
I'm not concerned about the strength of the dollar. I'm concerned about the rest of the world. Does that make sense?
Can you explain that?
Yes. Our economy is strong as hell. And the internal is up. Inflation is worldwide. Worse off everywhere else than it is in the United States. So the problem is the lack of economic growth and sound policy in other countries, not so much ours. And that's it's worldwide inflation. It's consequential.
Well, when he starts meandering like that, he it's just complete nonsense. Let's see, Chris, we should ask if a guy in studio here can fix that for us next.
He's good at it.
Oh, well, he's very popular. They think he's a righteous dude.
David Stokes over at the Show Me Institute. In high school, you talk about spike. I had a very short spike. It was
I knew there's some spike somewhere in there doing some spike stuff.
It wasn't very punky. It was more Leave It to Beaver-ish, maybe.
for something good to read on a Sunday.
As he does on Tuesday afternoons, David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute, joining us once again. David, I guess Joe Biden has a point if you think that the economy is great for government, because governments are doing just fine right now, right? But taxpayers and citizens seem to be struggling.
Governments in Missouri, local governments right now, are reaping a windfall in personal property taxes as inflation has, for one of the major reasons why used car prices have gone up so dramatically in the past 2 years, and being a state that has one of the few states that relies extensively on personal property taxes, governments are seeing enormous increases in how much money they're getting from cars and boats and business equipment, because unfortunately, personal property taxes are one of the only property taxes not covered by rollback requirements. So it's all windfall for government in Missouri. So yes, based on the tax collections this year, personal property taxes, next year likely real estate taxes after reassessment, government's doing just fine despite some protestations to the contrary.
Mm-hmm. David, whenever an area starts declining, you start to have a lot of vacant buildings, and those vacant buildings create great conditions for crime and drugs and prostitution and things of that nature. We're starting to see that in my beloved North County, where I was raised. St. Louis County Council Chair Rita Days, who represents that district, has come up with a novel idea called a land bank. She wants to establish that. I've never heard of anything like that. When I first heard land bank, I thought that's what you call when you shoot the three-pointer and you hit it off the backboard and you landed the bank. Apparently, that's not what it means. What is a land bank?
A land bank is... The questions you raised are hard ones and tough ones to how to address those problems. I'll tell you not how to address those problems. That's the creation of a land bank. A land bank is the last thing St. Louis County needs right now. And there's a coalition, the Realtors Association, some other groups pushing for one. The land bank in the city of St. Louis has failed. The land bank in Kansas City has failed. The Show Me Institute has done an immense amount of research on the St. Louis City Land Bank. And what it got really good at over time is acquiring lots of property, holding on to it, and turning down applications from people who wanted to buy it in favor of some future potential purchase that oftentimes doesn't materialize. Now, with the NGA development in North City, they did transfer some property to the NGA development. So, fairness demands you say that was probably the one big success they've had. But they've been in existence for 50 years, holding on to property and failing at putting it back into the private market, which is their ostensible purpose. You don't have to just take my word for it or the Show Me Institute's word for it. The Kansas City Star, about a year and a half ago, did a major investigation of the Kansas City Land Bank and documented its total failures in Kansas City. It leads to cronyism, favoritism, bias. Let's not forget one of the aldermen in the city of St. Louis, one of the indicted aldermen, now I believe they mostly pled guilty. One of the charges was taking a bribe to help people get a better price on land bank property. When you put the government more into the role of controlling private property, bad things are going to happen. If the Post-Dispatch, the main story on it, documents some of the title issues with acquiring property and the land trust sale, which is every county has that. And if you wanted to simply adjust that and make it easier to acquire title after what's called a post-third sale land trust sale, where a property's been in tax arrears, goes out for public sale, and nobody buys it. If you want to make it easier to do that, you can do that by amending the land trust law. But a land bank for St. Louis County will make everything you just described worse. Now, this is a truly terrible idea. And in fairness, Chris, I'm not trying to correct you, but I believe in the article I read that Rita Days said some things in favor of it and then raised some good questions about it. So I'm not sure she's one of the active supporters of it right now, and I could be wrong. There's a state rep from North County, I believe I hope I pronounce it right. Is there a state representative, Kevin Windham? Maybe. I think that's it in the articles. He's a big pusher of this. There's a state rep down in Springfield who's been attempting to push it in Springfield and other cities. We've blogged about this so much. This is not just a St. Louis thing. The land banks have failed in the cities that have tried them. The idea that you would expand them to other counties or other cities is insane. They don't sell the property back. The ones they do, there's bias and favoritism in giving it to politically connected people. That's what the Star's article about Kansas City documented so well.
What do you do with the property? Do you tear it down? Do you set up a fund to rehabilitate it? What do you do with it?
Well, a lot of these properties are in the land trust, which is a different thing, but a smaller thing, being that it's land banks allow the city of St. Louis and Kansas City to go out and acquire property proactively, which sounds good in theory, but fails terribly in the long run. So what every county has is the land trust, where when you don't pay your property taxes for 3 years, it's taken by the county and put up for sale. There's nothing wrong with those. And if you need to make some adjustments to those to make it easier to invest and get that land, I'm all in favor of that. But establishing a land bank to create a new county bureaucracy, to go out and proactively get these lands, take the ones that are in the land trust, get new lands into some guys that you're going to create. You're going to gather properties for big sales. That's what they say they're trying to do in St. Louis and Kansas City, and it's failed. So if you're caring about property rights, individual liberty, and a whole lot of other things, not allowing the government to get a bigger role in private property ownership, then I can't stress enough that a land bank for St. Louis County or anywhere in the St. Louis area is a truly terrible idea.
Do we have land banks in existence in Missouri at any level of government at this point in time?
St. Louis City, and the Show Me Institute did a major study on them several years ago.
Has it been a disastrous fail?
It has. They're turning down under the guise of keeping it for some big future development, which in the case of the NGA, you could say that one worked to some extent. Fairness demands admitting that. But for decades, they would turn down properties when neighbors would go to try and buy a land. They'd say, no, we're holding it for development. The stuff that never actually occurred. So they're rejecting property sales right and left. And that's what they did for decades. And now, making it so hard to get it in times that you had to go to your alderman and get help. And if the alderman liked you, maybe they would. If the alderman hated you, they could make sure you never got a piece of land unless you, as the one indictment stated, paid a bribe to the alderman. Very similar things have happened in Kansas City. It's inevitable with a land bank. If you're going to increase the role of government in this, you're going to get the cronyism and favoritism that's endemic to government. Kansas City has one, St. Louis City has one, and St. Joseph has one. St. Joseph's is much newer than the other two and very small. So it hasn't worked. Nothing good has come of it for yet. I don't have examples of failures per se, because again, it's new and small. Nobody else is authorized to have one. Land trusts work fine. Keep with that for St. Louis County, and then find other ways to address the points that Chris raised about increased vacant property and the crime that can come from it. I would say what St. Louis County did with Jamestown Mall, where they tried all sorts of abatements and incentives, nothing worked there, and finally they just decided, let's just tear it down. Let's just tear the whole thing down. I think that's the right move for Jamestown Mall. That's what Chesterfield's trying to do with the Chesterfield Mall. They too want tax incentives and TIF to do it, which is not needed. So then you go. But a land bank is not the guys are wanting to do something is too often in government an excuse to do the wrong thing.
You just segued perfectly into my next question. We've had discussions about the special taxing districts that I think that you are not in favor of. You think they're a waste of taxpayers' money. And we've had Mayor Knowles, former Mayor Knowles of Ferguson, that supports that. And the other day I was speaking with an alderwoman in St. Anne, and I was telling her about you and Show Me Institute weren't supportive of this. And she said the special taxing district is what created the Northwest Plaza project, and that's one of the most successful projects I've ever seen in revitalizing a mall and making it a mixed-use property. In the minute and a half that we have left, what's your rebuttal?
I have a lot more than a minute and a half of rebuttal, but I'll try to get to
That's okay.
It's one of the most frustrating. I'm going to quote an economist who wrote a great paper that I've cited many times on this. They did a study of subsidies in general, and special taxing districts are a type of subsidy.
Sure.
It's an additional tax which gets spent back to the developer in various ways. And this paper wasn't even completely opposed to subsidies and incentives and the like, but said that, and I'm going to quote it exactly, in our research that these various types of tax subsidies, incentives, and abatements, they help out about 10% of the time. They work about 10% of the total deal, and about 90% of the money is just wasted. And their next quote is exactly what you just quoted me, that these economists say, in their experience, they often see politicians who credit all growth to 100% to the tax subsidy or the abatement. It's a bird in the hand issue. You do a little abatement, something happens, and you think, well, our special taxing district, our tax deal, that created this growth, whereas you never see what would have happened with that investment if you hadn't done this deal. And oftentimes, when you're not taking money from person A to give it to person B or company B, and you're allowing the first person to just spend, save, or invest their money as they see fit, well, that's how our economy grew for hundreds of years until about 20 years ago, when everybody decided we were going to subsidize everything right and left in the state of Missouri. So when these people talk about, well, we did this subsidy and there's this development and it worked. Well, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Oftentimes they're exaggerating how much the project really worked, like happened in Baldwin with a recent TIF that ended that we discussed here. They're completely exaggerating its effectiveness. But oftentimes, other than that, they're never seeing what would have happened if they'd have just stayed out of the way.
You didn't take that question personal, did you?
I get it all the time from politicians, and it's very, very frustrating.
And he's got his answer ready to roll.
Dave Dander got up a little bit on that special taxing district thing.
Red like his hair.
Yeah,
very
exactly.
good. David Stokes, we got to let you go for now, my friend, but that was an excellent insight into why land banks really suck, according to David Stokes.
Wait a minute, you were going to give us a trivia question.
Oh, yeah. Can you get that out real quickly?
All right, good. An earlier promo mentioned Governor DeSantis. So a good St. Louis-related baseball trivia question. Who was Governor DeSantis's college baseball coach?
Oh.
And there is a St. Louis Cardinals connection.
At Yale? Was it at Yale?
It was at Yale. Good memory there.
Stell's getting close.
Oh, boy.
I have no idea.
I want to say someone like Danny Cox, but I don't know.
It's not Danny Cox, but you are someone like that, right? It was
John Tudor? No.
Really close. You got the John and the U right.
It was Johnny Unitas? No,
John
that's football.
Stuper.
John Stuper. That's a name.
1982 Cardinals.
Wow.
That's a
Series
name from
hero,
the past.
John Stuper.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, thank you, David Stokes. You're a man of many talents. You really are. At David C. Stokes on Twitter, showmeinstitute.org. We got to let you go for now to get Chris's Corner in next, but we always appreciate you coming in studio.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, David. Have a great afternoon and evening. Chris's Corner is up next on voter excitement and more here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
No, I'm just getting warmed up.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blinds for blinds, they're easy to install, guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop and save big at Blindster.com. Accident eastbound 270 at 170. Watch for brake lights at McDonald. Northbound US 67 still closed at Highway 94 in West Alton. Accident investigation. Use northbound Illinois Route 3. Sounds like we may have an accident now eastbound 270 at the Chain of Rocks Bridge. You're also stacked up on east and westbound 70 at Zumbel. An earlier crash on Veterans Memorial Parkway at Zumbel. Accident westbound 364 west of Harvester. Accident westbound 44 ramp to southbound 270, and an accident Olive at Indian Meadows Drive. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another freezing night tonight, low down to 30 degrees. A high of 53, lots of sunshine, a little breezy. It is definitely a cold day, but nice to have some sunshine. We're going to start to warm things up as we head to the end of the week, but it's still pretty chilly Thursday morning. 35 for the low, but 68, mostly sunny in the afternoon. We'll be in the upper 70s Friday into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Well, it's tree trimming time, and that means it's time to call our good friends at Hanson's Tree Service. I was just speaking with Chad Hanson yesterday, and he said he's plenty busy, but he's happy to be more. He can take care of all your fall trimming and pruning, and he should be taking care of that for you because this is prime time, folks, for fall trimming. Get rid of all those nasty dead trees and limbs so they don't come crashing down under the weight of snow, ice, and wind this winter into your gutters, or even worse, at the homestead. Remove those dead or decayed limbs before those winter storms bring them down. Also, get on Hanson's schedule for winter dormant oil applications on your trees to prevent all the insects from taking shelter there throughout the winter months. And it's a great time to have the folks at Hanson's come out and put you on a preventative plant health care program. So, fall trimming and pruning, winter dormant oil applications, and preventative plant health care. All of that and more can be found at Hanson's. Anytime you need them, they're there for you. You can give them a holler at 636-379-1830 or simply go to hansonstree.com. That's hansonstree.com.
Hey guys, Columbo here, reminding you that if you belong to an organization like a school or a church, or your kids are part of a group or a sports team that needs to raise money, there's no better way to do so than with a TJ's Pizza fundraiser. TJ's Pizza has been helping local organizations raise money for over 30 years to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. A local company helping local people, and there's lots of different ways TJ's can help you raise big money fast. Get started now at tjspizza.com.
Hey folks, Tim Jones here for the best and brand new St. Louis sports bar experience in the entire St. Louis region, Johnny's Hideout in High Ridge, Missouri, located just 10 minutes from 270 and Gravois. 30 TVs, a huge game room, a great outdoor patio, the Sunset Patio, complete with the Sunset Stage and the train station bar, serving the famous Johnny Dow's chicken wings and the best barbecue in town. Open 6 days a week, serving lunch and dinner. Check it all out on the web, jhideout.com. Johnny's Hideout STL on Facebook. That's Johnny's Hideout in High Ridge.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Wednesday at 10:41, Mark Carter, the councilman of council people, will join us. We'll get an update on the county council meetings. 20 days till the election. We'll find out what's up with that, too.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. It is now 4:49 in the PM on a beautiful but rather cool, chilly day here on October the 18th, 2022. Temperatures are supposed to rebound over the weekend. Chris, we've been talking about a lot of things today. Mm-hmm. Of course, all of our conversations seem to come back to what's going to happen in about 3 weeks from today.
21 days till election, and boy, it's getting exciting. I love this time of the campaign season. Not exactly it being cold, but I love this time when you're trying to cross the T's and dot all the I's. You start to get a feel of how you feel the elections are going to go, and you get that feel by talking to voters, talking to people. And Tim Estelle had a chance to do that last night at a meeting of the Police Officers Association, and I want to give my thoughts and observations on how that meeting, I think, will foretell how the upcoming elections may turn out.
Chris.
The whole thing is a joke.
Good God, we gotta do something here, people.
It's not personal. It's strictly business.
My favorite black leader of all time is Frederick Douglass, who
ask after emancipation, well, we just freed the blacks, now what are we going to do with them? And his answer was, leave us alone.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
You know, I've said this many times here, and I've written it many times, and I think I'm going to apply for a patent that I've said the 3 F's are what are going to determine this election. They are food, fuel, and funding the police. Those are the 3 issues that seem to be crossing all race, demographic, cultural, political lines. Those are the issues that voters are talking about. Last night I had a chance to attend a meeting at the St. Louis Police Officers Association on Hampton Boulevard. Was there at a meeting where they were endorsing Andrew Jones, who was running for the 1st District. That was a very important endorsement. They don't endorse a lot of Republicans, but of course they see how they've been demoralized and their profession downgraded, and so they want a champion in Washington, someone that will stand up for them instead of downgrading them. I think it was also very interesting that today Mark Mantovani, who is running as the Republican for St. Louis County Executive, received the endorsement from the Ethical Society of Police. That is the African American police union that represents officers in St. Louis City and St. Louis County. They came out with a statement today talking about they support Mantovani, that we need leadership in St. Louis County, and that the crime and other problems are out of control and really there's no one at the helm to steer the ship. You know, when I was at this meeting last night with Andrew, I said in order for Andrew to win, he's going to automatically get 40% of the vote. That's going to be the Republicans. He's going to need another 11% of the vote to win. I think half of that he can get from disaffected white Democrats in the St. Louis Hills area and that area, and black Democrats in North City and North County who are not supportive of Cori Bush. We said Cori Bush only has 20% support in the district. It's doable. But really the point of Chris's Corner today was there was a woman that was brought to the meeting by a support of Andrew, and she was a Democrat, hardcore Democrat, proud of it. She said that she came to hear what Andrew had to say. She said that she voted for Tashara Jones. She voted for Cori Bush. She voted for Kim Gardner. She really wanted to see them all do well, and she assured me once again that she was a Democrat, but she was very disappointed in them. And, you know, she heard Andrew say some of his speech, and after the end, she said, after she asked some questions, she said that she was going to be supporting him. And she said there were a lot of his signs in the St. Louis Hills area and in other parts of South St. Louis that showed his support. You know, Vic admonishes us, doesn't want us to talk about red wave and red tsunami, and I get it, Nick, Vic. We got to keep going. We can't get complacent. The Democrats will cheat, steal, and whatever, so we've got to make sure that we've got a heavy turnout. But I'm telling you, hearing that woman last night very, very, very encouraged me. And I think there are thousands of voters like that in St. Louis City and in St. Louis County that are not going to look at so much party label and are going to look at who's the best person for the job who has integrity, and they're not going to look at the name after the letter after the name, and are going to vote for the best person and try to clean up St. Louis County government and get some real leadership and representation in the 1st District. I'm telling you, I'm very encouraged. I think there, as I said, thousands of people like out there that want to change, and 21 days to go. I can't wait till there's 1 day to go to see just how well Republicans and conservatives are going to do this cycle. So keep your head up. I know we're doing that. I know they're going to try to discourage you with polls and try to tell you Democrats are making some late surge. Don't believe it. Keep your head to the grindstone. Go to the polls, vote, take 2 or 3 people with you, and let that red wave that Vic doesn't want us to talk about, let it materialize on November 9th. And that is Chris's Corner.
Chris, explain or maybe further drill down on what a big deal it is for Republican candidates to get the support of these police organizations, which essentially, let's be honest, they're unions, and unions don't generally support Republicans. That's how serious this has become, right?
It's been very, very serious. I mean, people see our cities are dying, especially St. Louis. The crime is out of control. We're down hundreds of officers for where we're supposed to be. This administration doesn't want to put the funding in to hire the necessary officers to patrol the streets. We're hearing stories last night where people are calling 911 and the police are not showing up, or they're coming hours later, and it's not so much because they're slacking on the job. They just don't have the manpower to approach all of these calls. So the criminals know that. I've said it many times. They've picked a immoral profession, but they're not stupid. And they know if there's not enough police and the police are demoralized, they're just going to run rampant and think this is the wild, wild west.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you might say that these law enforcement groups are, essentially voting against their own interests by bucking the Democratic Party and all these people that are Democrats in power in the city and county. But that's how bad it's become. They've decided, Chris, to take the high road, to do the noble thing and say, you are of the party that's not only not solving the problem, but as you point out, they're making the problem worse. And so they're saying, we're putting safety and security above our pension plans and our salaries and our wages because the whole region is suffering because of your lack of leadership.
And this is a trend. We had the recall of the San Francisco prosecuting attorney, and we had an election of a Republican prosecuting attorney, I think somewhere in Portland. So law and order is a issue for Republicans. They are capitalizing on it, and it cuts across all demographics, party labels.
Mm-hmm. If a truck driver in New Jersey can spend less than $200 and take out the Democratic Senate president, Andrew Jones can win the first congressional, and Mark Mantovani can win the county executive's office.
Both these races are very doable, folks. Very, very doable.
Yeah, stop believing the Post disgrace when they tell you that this cannot be done and that St. Louis is owned entirely by Democrats. I don't believe that. I don't think Chris believes it either. It's time for the awakening, right? That you saw it last night. That's beautiful. It's an amazing story. Loved the corner today. Hope everybody else did as well. All right, we're going to take a break here, and we'll be back with Thomas Savage of the American Legislative Exchange Council on how Americans are struggling under crushing inflation, the Speaker's stump speech, and more at 1019-94.1 News Talk STL. Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation, low interest rates, and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Are you downright disgusted with the corruption of our Democratic leadership at St. Louis City Hall that's been reported in the news?
Hi, this is Mary Teresa McLean, chair of the Republican Party City of St. Louis. If you want to put our city that we all love back on track, you must get involved. If you're ready to be part of the solution, we invite you. Come and meet us. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
The next Missouri Senator, Nick Schroer.
It is good that Nancy Pelosi's not in America right now. It's less destruction that she can partake in. I can't get over her eyebrows. I mean, if you watch her eyebrows and watch inflation, it shows you the trends in inflation rising.
Huh?
And during Trump, her eyebrows were normal.
It's an economic indicator. Her eyebrows.
Really is. I don't know if it's the Botox or the vodka.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
A top U.S. intelligence official questions whether Russia can sustain their attacks in Ukraine. Correspondent Jennifer King has more.
U.S. Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines says Russian forces face a major supply shortage and have been using up their stock of munitions at an unsustainable rate. The senior official says sanctions slapped on Russia are exposing its technological weaknesses, and a shortage of precision weapons such as cruise missiles is forcing Moscow to turn to countries like Iran and North Korea for equipment, including drones, artillery shells, and rockets. Meanwhile, as Russian forces pepper Ukraine with missile and drone attacks targeting energy facilities in the south and east, the Institute for the Study of War says that Moscow's recent offensive seems to be prioritizing psychological terror over achieving tangible battlefield effects. Jennifer King, Washington.
President Biden has promised that the first thing he will do next year is send a bill to Congress codifying Roe v. Wade. That brought a strong response from National Right to Life President Carol Tobias, who accused the president of presenting misinformation to the public. She also said the majority of Americans do not want abortion on demand. A record number of voters are taking advantage of early voting in Georgia. Bob Agnew reports.
More than 131,000 votes were cast on Monday, edging toward twice the number cast on the first day of early voting in Georgia's last midterm election in 2018. All that in a state where Democrats had leveled a charge of voter suppression following passage of new voter integrity laws after questions arose about the 2020 election. Another factor, the high-stakes U.S. Senate battle between incumbent Democrat Raphael Warnock and Republican challenger, former NFL star Herschel Walker. Bob Agnew reporting.
On Wall Street, the Dow up by 337 points, the Nasdaq rose 96, the S&P 500 advanced 42. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hello?
Hey, stranger.
Oh, hi. Thank goodness it's you. I was afraid to answer the phone.
Why? What's up?
The credit card companies are after me. They want me to make payments and the calls never stop.
Ouch. Been there before, but I got help from Trinity Debt Management.
Trinity?
Yeah, I called and right away Trinity contacted my creditors and got my interest rates cut in half. They ended all the late fees and over-limit charges, and they stopped those annoying phone calls.
Bet that was a relief.
Yep. Then they put me on a plan that consolidated my bills into one easy monthly payment. That way, I paid off my debt fast while saving thousands.
Nice.
Trinity even showed me how to plan and meet a monthly budget. So now I'm debt-free for keeps.
Wow. Do you still have their number?
Sure. Here, write this down and call 1-800-990-6976.
Can you repeat that?
1-800-990-6976. That's 1-800-990.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Walgreens. Finding the right Medicare plan is no easy feat. With Walgreens Find RX coverage, compare plans online, over the phone, or in person, and find plans with low-cost copays. When you need to talk Medicare, Walgreens is here. Start shopping at walgreens.com/Medicare. Accident eastbound 270 at 170. Watch for brake lights at Missouri Bottom. Northbound US 67 still closed at Highway 94 in West Alton for an accident investigation. Used northbound Illinois Route 3. Traffic stacks up east and westbound 70 at Zumbel. That's from an earlier crash that was blocking on Veterans Memorial Parkway at Zumbel. Accident westbound 364 west of Harvester. Wrapping up an accident westbound 44 ramp to north and southbound 270 and a crash on Olive at Indian Meadows Drive. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another freezing night tonight, low down to 30 degrees. A high of 53, lots of sunshine, a little breezy. It is definitely a cold day, but nice to have some sunshine. We're going to start to warm things up as we head to the end of the week, but it's still pretty chilly Thursday morning. 35 for the low, but 68, mostly sunny in the afternoon. We'll be in the upper 70s Friday into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility equity on their assets and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
The news and talk.
They're mad at inflation, crime. They're mad at gas prices.
And the border with fentanyl rushing across it.
That matters to St. Louis.
Vote, vote.
For the midterms, first Tuesday in November.
This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Look, the economy is so tough for so many people. Food prices, rent, spiking. If they've got retirement funds, those are evaporating. And even the issue of abortion, which did drive several special elections and that remarkable referendum result in Kansas. While there are millions of people for whom that will be the number one issue, I just think the economic headwinds are so tough. And Biden he just doesn't have the oomph as a candidate anymore. People don't really want him around, and he can't really make his case. That I don't think the Democrats are in any better place. And I would also say, in this country and in other countries, polls are broken, right? It is clear that lots of people on the right just don't answer anymore. They were worse in 2020 than they were in 2016. And so you look at those polls, it's close. If it's close, it's a Republican win.
And that's what they're allowing to be said on the liberal news networks, Chris Arps. That's Terry Moran on ABC's Powerhouse Roundtable from this past Sunday.
And that's why our guest, Robert Cahaley from the Trafalgar Group, why his polling firm is so successful, because he has found a way to get people that don't normally want to answer polls, namely Republicans and conservatives, to trust him and to answer his polls, and that's why they are much more accurate. But I agree with Terry Moran there. I think a lot of the polling is not showing the disaffected Democrats and those voters like here in St. Louis City and St. Louis County that I believe are going to vote for Mondavani and Andrew Jones.
I love that topic is now a national topic, and I feel like they all listen to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show.
They do.
When we first talked about that weeks, if not months ago, I feel like we were at the tip of the spear on calling that out, and it seems like everything's heading in the right direction. Now, weird things can happen in the next 3 weeks, but right now, Chris, it seems that, reproductive justice and calling everyone a racist is not what people are going to vote on this year. It's what is facing them every single day when they look at their 401ks, they look at their bank accounts, and they look at their paycheck stubs.
Yeah, and people were right that forecasted this during the summer when this decision came down, that yes, people are going to be very motivated. We're going to be very excited in the few days, weeks after this announcement came down. But you got 3 or 4 months to keep that white hot flame of enthusiasm going. And it's just not happening, especially when inflation is getting worse, and that's who we're going to talk with our next guest.
That's right. Let's drill down into that. By the way, folks, welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. It is 5:09 Central Daylight Time here in the Heartland. We're going to bring in our next guest, as Chris mentioned. His name is Thomas Savage. He is at the Center for State Fiscal Reform. He's the research director there at the American Legislative Exchange Council. Thomas, welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Great having you on today, my friend.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. Long-time listener, first-time guest today.
Great, thanks.
We appreciate that very much. So, Thomas, you have been really watching these metrics, and you could probably tell us how bad they really are. But it seems that, this is not getting the proper play it should really deserve, right, Thomas? Because these are some metrics that I don't know if you've probably haven't seen in your lifetime, I know you're a little younger than Chris and I, that most Americans have not experienced the pain of this. This is really severe economic stress, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, with the latest round of data from the Consumer Price Index, all items across the board have increased in price by 8.2% since last year. Food prices alone have gone up 11%, and energy prices alone have gone up nearly 20% since last year. But, Americans don't need a government report to tell them this. They see it at the grocery store, they're seeing it at the gas pump, and they're seeing how little their paycheck can buy compared to just a few years ago. And of course, at the end of the day, the problem is government, and the solution is getting government out of the way.
Thomas, I know you don't do politics, but I want to ask you a sort of a political question. Can you think of a worse visual for the president of the United States when we're dealing with 40-year record high inflation to be pictured eating an ice cream cone with $200 Ray-Ban sunglasses on, with $20 in his hand to pay for it, with a $2,000 or $3,000 watch on his other hand or arm? Could you think of a worse visual in this time?
That's a tough one. That's definitely in the not top 10. That is, you can't think of anything worse there, especially when, a lot of these, the ironically named Inflation Reduction Act, which is, it's sort of like having a big guy named Tiny. It's an ironic name because the Inflation Reduction Act has made inflation much worse. It's a Trojan horse for a wish list of policies, and it's got everything from higher taxes on businesses, price controls for healthcare and pharmaceuticals, and higher taxes on energy producers, and of course, hiring more IRS agents to harass Americans. It's not going to help this.
Mm-hmm. Speaking to Thomas Savage of the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC.org. Thomas, following up on that incredibly horrible visual that Joe Biden presented that Chris mentioned there, around that same time that visual was occurring, he followed it up with a ridiculous statement that the economy is just so hot, and if there's inflation out there, well, the rest of the world is dealing with, the rest of the world is dealing with that, kind of acting like, that we're reactive here. But Thomas, isn't it true that, as the U.S. goes, so goes the rest of the world, not the other way around? It seems like everything Democrats talk about, it's always in this reactive stage, leadership from behind. Nothing America does on the international stage makes a difference. But Thomas, once again, wasn't he trying to divert from the fact that, as most economists say, the trillions of dollars of U.S. spending very likely put us in the place we are now?
Oh, absolutely. And, part of that too, of course, I got to quote Milton Friedman here. Inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon, and it can be produced only by a more rapid increase in the quantity of money than an output. Now, with that in mind, as you mentioned, this massive spending, the federal government's rampant spending has been enabled by the Federal Reserve. And so since for the past 3 years, they've financed the largest spending increase since World War II with debt, and the Federal Reserve has been happy to buy that debt with newly printed money, and that's dramatically increased the money supply. And so, really, it's instead of enabling government spending or, trying to get involved in climate risks, the Federal Reserve needs to get back to monetary policy and to help tame inflation.
Jason, the highest inflation rate in 40 years hurts people the most, that those that are low income and those who are on fixed income, like our seniors. The government announced, I think about a week ago, that seniors are going to get the highest raise they've had in 40 years, 8.7% raise. Talk about how that helps or doesn't help our senior citizens.
It could possibly help it, and it'll help, and it depends on the trend that inflation goes. We also see that a lot with public pensions as well, where people will get cost of living increases. Unfortunately, as the case with public pensions, inflation beat out the cost of living increase, so they're still technically taking a pay cut. For now, it will help adjust incomes for inflation, but if the inflation news keeps getting worse and, we're still seeing these price increases, it could be the case where, rising prices beat out, these cost of living adjustments, and seniors and people in low income could still end up taking a pay cut after adjusting for inflation.
Speaking to Thomas Savage of the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC.org. Thomas, as the federal government continues with all of this reckless spending, with this damaging taxation, with this misguided energy policy, and so on and so forth, I know you all at ALEC work very closely with state leaders all across the country, and they're quietly the unsung heroes throughout all of this, trying to keep their state budgets balanced, trying to look for innovative ways to cut taxes and help their citizens. Are there some? I guess the state governments, they can only do so much when they're dealing with the federal government, its reckless policies, and the Federal Reserve. But are you seeing some innovative solutions in the states? Are some states providing some relief throughout these difficult times?
Absolutely, and that's one thing we're happy to see at ALEC. And as you mentioned, state leaders really don't have control over what the Federal Reserve or what the federal government will do. But as I mentioned in that Milton Friedman quote before, there's two factors to that: quantity of money and output. They can help out, and they're helping output grow and hopefully eventually outpace the growth in the quantity of money by doing things like, the state flat tax revolution. Arizona, Georgia, Iowa, and Mississippi transitioned from a progressive tax system to a flat tax. And what that means is Americans get to keep more of their hard-earned money. Instead of being dinged for earning a higher income. State leaders can also enact regulatory reforms and occupational licensing reforms that really remove those harmful barriers to starting a business and allow Americans to get back to work. And also, I'd love to make a plug for the latest edition of the ALEC Energy Affordability Report out right now on ALEC.org. And it outlines how energy policy based in free market principles and innovation can help make energy more affordable for Americans. So, those are some of the ways that state leaders really have taken the charge. And while there's all this mismanagement in Washington, state leaders really, as you said, are the unsung heroes here. And these sound policy reforms are really going to be the thing that helps Americans at the end of the day. And even when things in Washington are so crazy, these policy reforms are going to be the thing that helps out everyday Americans and help Americans make ends meet.
Thomas, not asking you to give investment advice, of course, but what can the average American and local and state governments do to help Americans deal with this 40-year high inflation rate we're experiencing right now?
Sure. If you're not already in a flat tax state, I would say, especially for state leaders, this one's for state leaders. I would say, for state leaders, look to changing the tax system to a flat tax, because then, because under inflation, people may, if they're fortunate, they may get raises to adjust their salary for inflation, but they'll still get thrown into a higher tax bracket and lose all that money to taxes. And, at the same time, their paycheck is buying less and less. So the first and foremost, you want families to be able to keep as much hard-earned money as possible so that they can make ends meet. And I'd say that is one of the most important things right there. And many states, we have 9 states right now that have a flat tax system. That going into 2022, there were 9 states. In addition, we've added Arizona, Georgia, Iowa, and Mississippi to those states that changed from progressive tax to that flat tax, and that's helping millions of Americans right there. And in addition, I also recommend checking out richstatespoorstates.org for further recommendations on how to really get into the weeds and how sound tax policy reform can really help, foster economic growth in your state and to help Americans keep more of what they earn and encourage investment and make your state the place people want to move to.
Thomas, a friend of mine, gave me that book recently.
It's a great one. I can't recommend it enough.
Some guy named Jonathan was in our studios a couple weeks ago, and he may have left some stuff behind. Yeah.
I encourage you to read it. Share it with friends and family. Rich States, Poor States is a great book that makes a great stocking stuffer. 100 some odd days, shopping days left until Christmas. So if you're looking for gift ideas,
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thomas Savage at the Center for State Fiscal Reform. He's the research director there under the ALEC umbrella, alec.org, where you can find everything that Thomas just referenced today. Thomas, it was great having you on today. Thanks for all of the wisdom and the wit, and we'd love to have you back again soon sometime.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thanks very much, guys. Have a good one.
You too as well. All righty, there we go. That was great. That was great indeed. You know, it's actually people sitting at home may be wondering, oh, that's the last thing I want to read. Chris, it's actually for us non-economists, it's a really easy read, and it's got a lot of great pictures in it as well.
It was in my office, and I saw it actually this morning, and I was like, I need to read this. Seriously, I did. I saw it, and I was like, I've been meaning to look at this.
You know, we need to have we'll have Thomas or Jonathan Williams back on again because of something I meant to ask and forgot. In that Rich States, Poor States, for 14 years running, Utah always comes out number one. And I want to know what's the secret sauce. You know, they just seem to always, and again, the left completely ignores Utah, of course, because it's run by Republicans, but they do great. They have a low cost of living. They don't have a zero tax, but they're heading that way. And man, people are flooding in there unfortunately, from California, of course.
Could that be why Oregon, those counties in Oregon want to join
Yes,
Utah?
they do. Yes.
They have a very competitive Senate race in Oregon. The incumbent Mike Lee, very conservative gentleman who you would think would be ahead, is running against Evan McMullin. If you remember him, Tim, he ran as a independent Republican candidate against Donald Trump in that primary in Utah. I think he got like 30% of the vote, but he is on the heels of Evan McMullin or of Mike Lee, and the Democrats didn't field a candidate. And McMullin has said that if he is elected, he will not caucus with the Democrats or the Republicans.
It's going to be his own party.
So that's how he is. That's how he's campaigning.
Maybe he can get together with Bernie Sanders, the other independent.
Yeah, but Mike Lee's only like 3 points ahead.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. We'll see what happens there. That'll be one interesting to keep an eye on. See if the pollsters are right or wrong on that. Indeedy. All right, when we come back, Speaker Stump Speech, I didn't tease this earlier. Shame on me. Let me tell you what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, I found a fascinating article at Zero Hedge, which is a great little website that the left loves to hate. And Stephen Moore, our good friend of this station, who's on here quite a bit, wrote about the 7 ways America's being destroyed. I'm going to go through those and then ask you.
Only 7?
Well, for now. We probably could have done 77. But the biggest question is, are these accidental or intentional? We'll let you be the judge when we come back and tell you what is at the Stump Speech today here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another freezing night tonight, low down to 30 degrees. A high of 53, lots of sunshine, little breezy. It is definitely a cold day, but nice to have some sunshine. We're going to start to warm things up as we head to the end of the week, but it's still pretty chilly Thursday morning. 35 for the low, but 68, mostly sunny in the afternoon. We'll be in the upper 70s Friday into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Ride Finders. Ride Finders is the St. Louis area's free carpool and van pool ride matching program. By sharing the ride to work, you can save thousands of dollars per year and take thousands of cars off the roads. Do the right thing. Visit ridefinders.org for details. Accident investigation blocking all lanes on northbound US 67 at Highway 94. Use northbound Illinois Route 3 as an alternate into Alton. Eastbound 270 stacks up 370 to a crash at 170. It continues to take out the left lane. Southbound 270 slow between Page and Manchester. Accident westbound 4064 over I-70. Delays east and westbound 70 at Zumbell. An earlier accident, Veterans Memorial Parkway at Zumbell. A crash eastbound 364 before Goodermuth. An accident westbound 44 ramp to 270. And heavy volume southbound 55 between Lafayette and Bates. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
If you're on Medicare, listen to this message.
Open enrollment for all Medicare participants is now open until December 7th.
This is a very critical time of year to make needed changes to your plan.
And it's only during this period that you can make modifications, a process that can be confusing, overwhelming, and time-consuming.
MB Health is local and here to complete this process quickly, properly, and effectively. Call Mike Butts and his expert team at 314-544-5400.
Or visit mbhealth.com.
How is your car payment treating you? What if I told you you could make a free phone call right now and reduce your car payment by as much as $83 a month? Look at your car payment closely. You could be paying as high as 20% interest. Rate Genius can help you reduce your car payments by reducing your interest rate to as low as 2.48% APR. We can refinance most existing car loans or leased cars, new or used, and save you money every month. Put more money back in your pocket. The call is free to find out how low we can lower your car payment. 5 minutes of your time right now could save you hundreds of dollars a year. Call Rate Genius now.
800-764-2179. 800-764-2179. 800-764-2179. That's 800-764-2179.
Not all applicants qualify for a loan or rate savings. Actual offer terms, including APR, are determined at the time of your application based on creditworthiness, value of the vehicle, loan term, and other factors.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
You and me, we come from different worlds. You like to laugh at me when I look at other girls.
The people in the liberal press need to demand that your candidate, the one you guys are backing in the liberal press, show up and debate. The people of Arizona deserve this. I promise her, Katie, I promise you, you can write the questions for me. I promise you I won't yell, Katie. I promise you I won't interrupt you. And if you want to have an emotional support animal there as well, I will agree to that. But show up like a grown-up and debate. We have serious issues facing this great state of ours. We've got the narco-terrorists controlling our border right now. How in the heck are you going to go up against them if you're afraid to debate me here at PBS? How in the heck are you going to go up against Gavin Newsom when he's stealing our water and fight back there? And when they're taking our energy? How in the heck are you going to fight for companies to come to Arizona when you have to go up against people like great governors, like Governor Abbott and Governor Kristi Noem and Governor Ron DeSantis? Arizona will lose if Katie Hobbs is elected.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't play chess, but I think that could be construed as a checkmate.
That was a shredding of your opponent, right, Chris? That was like they're on the ropes and you just beat the living tar out of them until the refs pull you off.
Yeah, it's one of those really, how do you respond to that? She straight called you out and you really don't have a good response. And, you know, I said this, I think on our show, and I think I said it on Newsmax last week, that it angers me that these candidates in Georgia and Pennsylvania, around the country, don't want to debate, or they're having these debates late in the cycle. And the voters deserve better than
Absolutely.
that. The voters deserve better than to make their minds up on commercials and social media ads. That's how you're supposed to determine who to vote for.
And look, we're over here, what, 18, how many miles are we from Arizona? 1,800 miles, you know, halfway across the country. And people may be wondering, well, why should we care about Kari Lake? Well, because I think Kari Lake's the future, one of the futures of the Republican Party. And if we didn't play Kari Lake and people in Missouri just listened to random bits and pieces of what they heard snatched out of the ethosphere, they would think Kari Lake had 5 horns sticking out of her head and was some kind of radical extremist hate monger. If you actually, because that's what the media has painted her as. If you actually listen to the woman, she's incredibly intelligent. She knows all the media's tricks because, as you've pointed out, she's been in their industry, and she makes a freaking darn lot of sense, Chris. That's why they're scared of her.
Look, Kari Lake is a female Ron DeSantis. She knows how to play the media. She has been as one as you said, and she's not afraid to fight back. And that's what a lot of people love about her and DeSantis and Trump. She calls them out and fights back.
It's all the aspects of Trump without maybe some of the things that turn some voters off. Not me, but others. You know, if you're worried about personality and such and so forth. Can you imagine a DeSantis Lake ticket? I think that would be a 45 to 47 state sweep. I mean, you're never gonna get California, probably not New York, maybe not New Jersey or Connecticut, but you're gonna get just about everybody else with a ticket like that. Well, it's a no nonsense ticket.
I think you could call it no nonsense, a straight talk ticket, the whole gamut with that. I'd be excited about that. You know, and the thing is, Tim, and I know we're getting to the corner, but the thing that really makes me upset about Kari Lake is they try to paint her as this quote unquote election denier and this wild-eyed crazy person when all she has done, like many of us have questioned, is election laws being changed in the last 30 days of an election, not by the legislature, but by local election officials.
Yes.
She has questioned what we have seen in the videos where people are dropping off ballots at midnight and 3 o'clock in the morning in different places. She's questioning that. And because of that, you're an election denier, a crazy person.
Ballot harvesting is illegal in 22 states. There's actually laws on the books. So then you got to ask yourselves, well, why is it illegal? And then why do some big blue states where a lot of questionable activity occurred in the 2020 election, why do they allow ballot harvesting? Like, shouldn't we be able to ask, well, I wonder if the ballot harvesting that was done in the state of Georgia before they changed their laws there, do you think maybe that had something to do with the election results on election night? No. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But to your point, we don't even get to ask the question. We're called insurrectionists, we're called election deniers, and we're called the worst thing to hit America's shores since Pearl Harbor. It's just ridiculous.
Because with these people, if you do not have video of somebody stuffing a ballot or you don't have direct proof of someone doing this, then they're saying you don't have any proof. These are unsubstantiated claims, even though a blind person, anyone with common sense would say, hey, why are people dropping off ballots at 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning?
Yeah, the COVID crisis was the best thing that ever happened to the Democratic Party as far as the election results of 2020, because as you stated, and this is a discussion they don't want to have, there were laws that were changed that had to do with how you cast a ballot that have never been on the books or allowed in this country in the previous 230 plus years that were allowed in 2020.
Yeah, because of COVID.
Exactly. Josh Hall, and there were other things, as you mentioned. Josh Hawley went to the Senate floor on January the 6th and gave a speech that has been completely forgotten because of the other shenanigans of that day. And he talked about what happened in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court of that state literally changed the election laws that had been passed by the state legislature, which they had no right to do. And by the way, folks, you know what the follow-up to that was? There was a follow-up case months after November 2020 that reversed that decision and determined them to be unconstitutional actions. So you're telling me that unconstitutional actions occurred that had to do with Pennsylvania's voter laws, and we're not allowed to question them and question the results of the 2020 election?
Yeah, if they're like I said, if you don't have direct proof, pictures, video of someone doing the illegal act, or you can't or if you can't prove that whatever whatever allegations you are throwing, if you can't prove that would change the result of the election, then we don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, it's amazing that Hillary Clinton basically got to retract her concession speech and question Donald Trump's legitimacy for 4 years. Stacey Abrams, it takes her nearly 4 years to finally concede that she did lose 4 years ago in Georgia, and we can't ask simple questions about 2020. It's really amazing, the double standard.
And that's a joke, and she talked about that on her campaign, where she says, well, when I gave my concession speech at the beginning, I conceded to the governor. Yeah, you may have conceded to the governor at the beginning of your speech, but you went on for 25 minutes questioning the legitimacy of it.
And then she monetized that, Chris, and became a millionaire with an industry that she created out of whole cloth.
Exactly. So you can't say one thing, for first 2 minutes of the speech, and then the rest of the 25 minutes you're saying it's illegitimate, and here's why.
Yeah, I think we have very surgically just pointed out in the last 7 minutes why there is a double standard in this country about certain speech that's allowed and certain speech that's not. And that should never be the case in a country like ours that has a First Amendment that is always and here's the thing. Folks on all sides of the political spectrum have prized that cherished amendment forever. And now we're being told by certain aspects of the government and big corporate America and big tech that only one particular point of view, the narrative of the regime, is acceptable. Otherwise, you're a seditionist.
Yeah. And what's even more scary about it is people have that sentiment, and they have the FBI and the Justice Department behind them as henchmen to enforce their rule and take away your First Amendment rights. That's even scarier.
I'm pretty sure the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show was just canceled on YouTube.
Yeah, we're on YouTube.
There's no way we're on that channel anymore.
By the way, I'll toss one other thing in there.
Yeah, please do.
And reading the New York Times is not something that I normally do, although I do want to know what the enemy's saying. I don't know if you guys caught last Saturday's edition. On the front page, above the fold, they had a map of the U.S., and all the red dots on the map showed all these different areas where alleged election deniers were running for office.
Are you kidding me?
But they didn't call them election deniers. They were called election skeptics.
Oh, skeptics.
Oh, so that's the new buzzword?
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Which is worse, deniers or skeptics, do you think?
I think deniers is probably. I think that skeptics kind of softens it a little bit, and it may open the door for more folks to.
Depends on what's on your file in the FBI.
He's probably right.
That's right. I'll check my back door when I get home.
Maybe don't go in the front door. For sure. Right. Have someone else start your car too. Yeah. All right. Well, on that happy note, let's now talk about the 7 ways America's being destroyed.
Listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
So that's another reason we need communism.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
So before I read you the 7 ways America's being destroyed, as per Stephen Moore, who is one of the best economists in the land, if you want to know truth bombs, and why he believes that it's being done intentionally. So before you think, that once again, I'm an extremist and I am not following the narrative of the regime and that I'm just making up all of this out of thin air and I'm a conspiracy theorist and, I must follow in the footsteps of my uncle Alex Jones and so on and so forth. Let me give you some facts first to kind of set this up and to prove my point. You can look all these up. And a lot of you, when I say these numbers, you're going to be like, well, yep, I'm aware of that. Yep, that's probably true. Yep, really hard to deny that. As Chris said, there comes to be a point where you just can't trust their lying eyes. So I'm going to read you a series of numbers that existed in January of 2021 as Donald Trump was leaving office versus what those numbers are today, 20 months later. Not even 2 years. Look how fast you can destroy a railroad in 20 months. Inflation in January 2021. Everybody knows it was really low, right? Do you remember how low it was? 1.4%. 1.4%. Now, 8.3%. Gas prices, the average national wage of gas prices, the rate of gas prices, this is taking into context New York, California, and all the cheaper states in between. $2.39 a gallon. We are well over $3.75 nationwide on the average. Interest rates for mortgages, 30-year mortgage. Back in January 2021, if you were smart enough to get one before Joe Biden took office, you would have paid around 2.65%, around 2.5%. Now it's over 7%, and I heard an economist today say, don't be surprised if we hit 8% by January.
Ouch.
Yeah. Average rental prices. Everybody hears about rent going up, right?
Yeah.
Average rental rate, $1,600 a month. Now it's over $2,000 a month. Where are Americans getting an extra $6,000 to pay the rent? The NASDAQ. Well, the NASDAQ in January 2021, with all the big growth tech stocks, kind of shows you where your country's going. It's kind of a leading indicator of research, development, and growth. It was well over 13,000 points, 13,342. It's now below 11. It has fallen well over 2,500 points in 20 months. Groceries. The annual year-over-year inflationary rate for groceries at the grocery store, 3.7%. Now, check this out. It's nearly gone up 5 times, over 13.5%. Yep, that's what you're paying at the grocery store. Electricity, it's even worse as we head into winter. Winter's coming. Electricity was year-over-year 1.5% under Donald Trump. Now it's 15.8%. How are people affording gas, rent, groceries, and electricity? On top of all of that, something that Joe Biden was able to say 6, 7, 8 months ago is not able to say now. Wages, when factoring in inflation under Donald Trump, they were increasing at an average rate of 4% a year. Now they are decreasing because of inflation at 2.8%. So any of those wage increases you got, they're being completely chewed up and spit out by 8.5% inflation. Now, that's what's going on. So do you have any doubt that America is under threat and harm right now? Here are the 7 reasons Stephen Moore believes that America is being destroyed. Well, first thing you do, you destroy its finances. I think we've just proven that point. Number 2, you attempt to destroy its currency. That has definitely been under attack. Third, well, this started on day 1. Third is you would destroy its energy supply. What was the first thing Joe Biden did? He signed an executive order ending the Keystone XL pipeline, which would have provided us a bunch of new energy from one of our partners, one of our friends, Canada, not Iran, not Venezuela, not North Korea, not China, and not Russia. Pipelines of energy from Canada was ended on day 1. The fourth thing you would do, you would provide more money to your enemies. Yeah, why do you think we're now paying China, Russia, Iran, and Venezuela for all sorts of things? And in addition to signing a new Iranian nuclear deal, which Jim Carafano and Jim Talent and all the other Jims that we have on say that would be the worst thing that you would do in today's world. The fifth thing you would do is divide the nation. We have never been more divided. This was the party that said they were going to bring everybody together. We were all going to sing Kumbaya. This was going to be the great unifying, uniting. Americans think, the right track, wrong track numbers. We're down to 25%. I'd love to meet those people who think America's still on the right track, but there's 25% of them. Nearly 70% of Americans believe we're on the wrong track, and the rest of them simply don't care. I guess they've given up. Sixth way you would destroy a nation would be to destroy the stock market and people's lifetime savings. We had a new story this week. People's 401ks are down on average over 25%. In real numbers, the average median on that is over $30,000 per American of losses. Seventh, Chris, you're clairvoyant. You just mentioned this. You would weaponize government agencies and seek to imprison or punish your political enemies. Who wants to deny that Merrick Garland, the DOJ, and the FBI are treating Hunter Biden very differently than they are parents who dare to show up at school boards and express their chagrin at transgender cultish wokeism, weird books in their libraries, and sexual experimentation on your child? All of this has been done pursuant to law changes, regulations, and executive orders. Those all require intent. I think it's hard to deny at this point, as we approach 3 weeks before a midterm election, that America is being destroyed 7 ways from Sunday, and probably a lot more. And it's all being done on purpose. I don't know why, other than they think they're going to create some magical new world order in their own image and likeness. And I don't like what we're seeing in the mirror. And that's the stump speech for today.
Yeah, and you see that destroying of America from within. You see it that from the kindergarten through high school, they're trying to indoctrinate and sexualize our children. Then when we send them to college, they're indoctrinated with that leftist philosophy. And we see now when we see polls being done that so many of the Gen Y and Gen Z support socialism, think it's the greatest thing in the world and we should have it. That's how you destroy a country from within, when you have the young people believing in communist socialism.
Absolutely indeed. All right, well, we're going to take a break here. Maybe we'll try to liven things up a little bit when we come back. We'll have a few minutes left. If you'd like to call us, we'd be happy to speak with you all. 314-912-1019, 314-912-1019. Chris, Stell, and me, or I?
And I will be back.
And I will be back. That's right. Look at this. I was an English literature major. I was a literature major, not a grammar major. So there you go.
Right.
That's my defense.
I've weaponized the grammar police.
Yeah, yes, you have. That's all right. Someone's got to keep me in order. We'll be back right after this at 1019-941 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. At Lowe's, every pro is an MVP. MVP's Pro Rewards members visit Lowe's now and earn bonus points on products and brands like DeWalt. Then redeem for Lowe's e-gift cards and more. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees. Lowes.com/MVP's points for details. Now through October 28th. Police activity westbound 255 on the JB Bridge blocking the right lane. Traffic lines up at Illinois Route 3 Columbia. Eastbound 255 jams at Lenberg. An earlier accident still causing delays eastbound 64 before Big Bend. There's a crash westbound 4064 over I-70. An accident eastbound 364 at Goodermuth. Westbound 70 stacks up into Zumbel. Stop and go eastbound 270 McDonald to New Florissant. And northbound US 67 closed at 94 in West Alton. They should be wrapping up an accident investigation. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another freezing night tonight, low down to 30 degrees. A high of 53, lots of sunshine, a little breezy. It is definitely a cold day, but nice to have some sunshine. We're going to start to warm things up as we head to the end of the week, but it's still pretty chilly Thursday morning. 35 for the low, but 68, mostly sunny in the afternoon. We'll be in the upper 70s Friday into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Listen to this noise coming out of the White House.
Live and local.
We need to get the message to people who are not being helped by Democrats. Ron DeSantis showed people the back of his hand.
This is News Talk STL.
Well, folks, you can be like Tony Colombo and grill all year round, whether it's 5 degrees out or 500 degrees out, or you can just wait 2 days and take advantage of this beautiful warm weather. Yeah, it's coming back, so don't put the grill away. You can grill this weekend, and you should use Rockwood charcoal in that grill, of course. Rockwood charcoal, beautifully imperfect. It's got a very distinctive appearance. It's pure 100% Missouri oak and hickory. And did you know that Missouri is the #1 producer of charcoal in the United States? That's why Jonathan Heslop created Rockwood charcoal, because he thought we had a really good thing going here. Everything that goes into making Rockwood charcoal comes from right here in the Show Me State. So you can be proud of the state in which you are in when you're buying Rockwood charcoal and know that it is 100% homegrown. Why is it the best? Well, it lights easily and heats up in a flash. You're ready to cook in minutes. It also burns hotter, sealing in juices for bolder, more flavorful food. And you can feel good about burning it because it's made from renewable resources. Not one tree is harvested specifically for Rockwood charcoal. Rockwood takes all the pieces that are too knotty, warped, short, otherwise unusable, for hardwood lumber and repurposes them for charcoal. How wonderful is that? Where can you find Rockwood charcoal? All over the state, all over the country, in fact. All those locations will be listed at rockwoodcharcoal.com, where you can also find incredible cooking tips and tricks. Check them out today. Make sure it's the only charcoal you're using from this point on forward. rockwoodcharcoal.com. That's rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Summer means you're constantly on the go, so let Steph's Pizza make mealtime simple and good. Dine in, pick up, delivery, even DoorDash. Steph's Pizza is known for great pizza, but they also have pasta and more. With 4 locations in St. Peter's on Jungerman, on Elm at 370 in Zumbel, on Winghaven Boulevard right next to MasterCard, and in the Chesterfield Valley on Long Road. Check them out at stephspizza.com and simplify your summer meals.
From home improvement to replacement,
Do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Donald Trump's White House economic advisor, Stephen Moore, joins us on Wednesday's program so he can tell us how to fix this economy.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
That's too good. That's too good there.
I thought folks were booing you guys.
No, Jill Biden. We didn't talk about that yesterday, Chris. Jill Biden shows up at a Philadelphia Eagles game, the city of brotherly love, and she got no love in Philly this past weekend.
You know, Philly is hard when during a Dallas Cowboy game in the 90s, the great Michael Irvin got hurt. And the fans actually booed him while they carted him off on a stretcher.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia Eagles fans booed Santa Claus. That's how hardcore they are.
Yeah, and if you're Dr. Oz, you got to be thinking, if the Bidens are getting booed right in the middle of Philadelphia, which is now I'm sure people come from all over to go to Philly games, but Philadelphia, a deep blue urban city, if the Bidens are getting booed there, then there's probably a chance for everybody everywhere who's running as a Republican this year.
Exactly.
So interesting. It was very, and man, it must be really bad. I mean, I could see if it was Joe Biden. I don't know. It's just Jill Biden. She's just kind of there. So.
And I actually saw something the other day where she had and you'd expect it, of course, she had a much higher approval rating than Joe Biden, and that many of these campaigns that didn't want Joe Biden coming to campaign for them, they did want Jill to campaign because she's much more popular, but apparently not in Philadelphia.
How bad is it when your own party wants you nowhere near them? Even people that have voted with Joe Biden and what he's wanted them to do 100% of the time, they don't want him anywhere near them on the campaign trail. It's that bad.
It's that bad, but they'll spin it and say, hey, we'll do whatever we need to do to win, and if that calls for the president not campaigning and not being there, that's fine. We need to have control of Congress, so that's the most important thing. That's how they'll spin it.
Speaking of Philadelphia, Stell was commenting with me in the break that few, if anyone, had Philadelphia Phillies versus San Diego Padres on their NLCS bingo card at the beginning of the year. What a bizarre series that is. And remember that little tidbit I gave you all from Morning Brew last week? Every time the Phillies have a really good championship team, the recession is right there along with them. So we need San Diego. I don't really care about either one of these teams, but I think we need San Diego to beat Philly in this NLCS if we're all going to survive.
Otherwise, we're going to have Elton John writing Philadelphia Recession instead of Philadelphia Freedom.
That's right.
Man.
That's right, indeed. Chris,
Katie wouldn't get that joke.
No, she wouldn't. She would not.
She's like, huh? What? Yeah.
When was that?
Philadelphia what? Freedom?
Chris, I saw that, speaking of the darn Eagles, they beat the Cowboys, and I saw a story today that Dak Prescott is expected perhaps back this next weekend from his thumb injury.
I mean, you're always encouraged when your starter, who's had some pretty good seasons last few seasons, comes back, but I've said this for many years now, and I even said this about Romo. I don't think Romo or Dak are the quarterbacks that are going to take Dallas to a championship. They're good quarterbacks, but they haven't proven to me that they can win the big game when you need to win the big game. They haven't done that yet.
Yeah, they don't seem to have the pizzazz of some of the of a Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or they're good. I mean, they're elite. They're elite quarterbacks, but there seems to be something missing.
Look, back in the day when you had Montana and you had Staubach and you had Elway and quarterbacks like that, I don't care if there was 1 second left on the clock. As long as they were out there on the field, you knew that team had some type of chance. I never felt that with Romo or Dak.
Right. And in the modern day, like when Tom Brady takes the field, and well, especially when he was with the Patriots, they seem to be a complete package. I remember there was that one Super Bowl where they were way down at halftime, way down.
Yeah.
I think they may have been playing Tampa Bay. I can't remember the exact Super Bowl. And everyone was like, Super Bowl's over. I'm like, they were down a lot.
I think it was a Texan. What was that? It was a team that choked really bad. I remember that.
And Brady came back in the second half and marched down the field like three touchdowns in a row. And they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, greatest comeback in Super Bowl.
One of the best ever.
And really, it was like that with Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner, same thing. Yep.
You know, anytime Kurt was on the field, you felt as though somehow they would score.
And that's a very rare thing with a quarterback. Not all quarterbacks have that. You have quarterbacks that are good, and they may, bring the team back 50% of the time. But there's those certain quarterbacks that they get on the field, it's like they're coming back. They're going to win. And Dak and Romo just aren't there.
They didn't quite. There's a little bit something missing, So we'll see. We'll see what happens. The Eagles obviously keep rolling this year. That is for sure. And the Chiefs, Mahomes has that. Mahomes has that pizzazz,
magic.
That magic that you're like, all right, if that guy's on the field, there's a good chance they may score.
And the thing with Mahomes, like these other quarterbacks. Look, you knew that that the team always had a good chance because they were good with clock management. They knew the system. They knew their players. They could just execute. With Mahomes, he can do that as well, but just the things that he can do on the football field, no other quarterback can do has ever done. I mean, some of the throws that he makes and the angles and the plays that he makes, it's like, oh my God. I said that when I was watching the last game. Becky's like, what's the matter? I was like, this boy's clowning. I mean, look at these plays he's making.
On the run.
Helps him.
Throws on the run. Yeah.
You got that comeback thing like quarterbacks have, and you can make spectacular plays like him, and he's dangerous.
He really is. So, I was going to ask Stell about what do we got? A minute left. Stell, you said you like hockey? You like hockey,
yes.
Right? But you're a Blackhawks fan.
Yes,
but you do like the Blues, right?
I like the Blues.
Stell loves the Chicago teams, man. I got to give it to you.
So, I don't know what it is with the Blues schedule this year. So, like several hockey teams have played like 3 and 4 games already. The Blues have had their home opener, and that's it. And their next game isn't until tomorrow. I'm like, are they gonna play you know what though? Yeah. What's weird is usually they don't play hockey games back to back. They've got a couple back to back games this month, and man, that's that. I actually played in an adult men's league for a few years. It was nothing fancy. I mean, it was a fun way to get out with some friends and skate and all that. It is one of the most exhausting sports on the planet. We would come off the ice at the end of those games. We'd be soaked all the way through. And we're skating on ice, and it's cold. But it's an exhausting thing. So that's why generally they take a day off versus in baseball and other sports. And like in football, you get the crap beat out of you every week. So you need a week off.
Yeah, you need a week to recover.
Yeah. All right, we're going to let you all recover in the break here. And then when we come back for our 6 o'clock hour, we're going to talk to David Stokes about land banks. Boy, I think David Stokes loves to loathe them. We'll break all that down with him when Chris, Stell, and I return here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Out of luck.
The roller coaster. No matter your age, no matter the amusement park, it never ceases to bring the emotional goods, the anticipation, the excitement. And then, the fear and adrenaline rush that comes with the king of all rides. The same can be said when it comes to your retirement. Lots of questions and concerns that for some can feel like a roller coaster. Will you be able to continue to live as comfortably as you do now? Will you have complete financial independence? Will you run out of money? How about taxes, Social Security, or